Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it was sent to me by one of our listeners. Then I had to ask one of our admins to give us a translation, and the translation reads like this. Hello my brother, how are you? Can you please post for me? I have a lot of challenges that I am facing in my life. Even the challenges that I'm going to be talking about, some of the people will say that they can live in those circumstances, but as for me, the situation is really difficult for me. But the reason why I keep on hanging on in this marriage, it is because of my family. Whenever I think of the position where I am coming from, I think that maybe I just have to sacrifice my life for the sake of my siblings, because the man that I got married to, he is quite a good man when it comes to the finances. Even the first day when he showed me the banking app that are on his phone, it took me a couple of minutes for me to be able to read the money, his bank balance, because it had a lot of zeros. And for me, it was the first time to ever come across such a huge amount. Right now, my husband, he recently purchased another franchise of a big restaurant that is found here in South Africa. And that kind of a franchise, it cannot be done by anyone because it costs a lot of money. I am talking about millions and millions. But the man that I got married to, he has a lot of money. But there are few things that I want to talk about. My husband is so wealthy that there is no need for me to get out of the house. Anything that I want, I can just even order online. We have a few workers that do our groceries. That is how rich my husband is. My husband rarely goes out shopping because we have a worker that does all of the shopping for the house. Even I, my brother, when I started staying with my husband, this was quite odd for me, considering the place where I am coming from, because this man, when he proposed love to me, I was just a normal housemaid, and at that time it was during lockdown and I had stopped working. I am from Zim and I had came here to South Africa. This was before lockdown. As a single mother who had left two of her kids back home, I then focused on my job of trying to take care of my parents and my kids. Then Corona came and my life came crashing on me. The family that I was working for, they tried as much as they could to give me a little bit of money here and there. They'll give me something like 200 rands, but they were not giving me my salary. I was really struggling. I reached a point in my life that whenever my parents who are back home in Zim would call me, I'll be left with no choice but to ignore their calls, because whenever I'll see the phone ringing, and if I will see that it was my mom who was calling me, and I will know that the reason why she will be calling me, it will be because they don't have any food. When I came here to South Africa, after I had found a job, I would make sure that even though I was earning less at that time, I was only getting 2,800 rands. So what I'll do is that I'll use 1,000 for the food and the rentals. Then the other part of the money, I'll send it back home. It was just a matter of feeding from hand to mouth. When lockdown came, I really didn't have any plans at all. That is when I thought of finding a man who could take care of me, because it was now so stressful for me. Sometimes I would even avoid my parents, and then I would just lie that I didn't have any WhatsApp data. So what I started to do is that I looked at the other men who had for a long time been proposing love to me in that location where I was staying, but simply because I had came here to look for work and to take care of my kids that were back in Zim. All those men that used to propose love to me, I had denied them. But during Corona, my brother, I did a lot of things that I am not proud of. But even though life was difficult, I tried as much as I could not to get really wild. What I'll do sometimes is that I would go on the social media, then I'll meet a lot of men. So these men that I would meet on social media, after dating them for a couple of days, I'll then ask them to send me some money so that I can buy some data. Then if the man will say that he will buy me data, then I will say no, I'll buy the data for myself. All that I wanted was for that man to send me the money via e-wallet, or I would go and fetch it at ShopRite. Then I'll buy some food. Then if that man would have sent me money, sometimes I will block the man. I used to get into a lot of online dating WhatsApp groups, even on Facebook. That was when I met my current husband. When I met my current husband, we dated for many months without seeing each other face to face because of the distance. He was in another province and I was in another province. From day one that I started to speak with him via WhatsApp, he never showed me that he was wealthy. But what this man did is that I saw that he had a little bit of addiction when it came to sex chatting, because even from the very first day that I spoke with him, he asked for my nude pictures. So I sent him the nude pictures after he had promised me that he would send me some money. He then sent me some money which I used to buy some food. He told me that he had loved the way that I was, and for a very long time he had been looking for a woman who was from the same country that he came from, because my husband is a Zimbabwean, so am I. When we were dating, then there came time when my landlord told me that she wanted a rent money because I had gone for a few months without being able to pay her the rent money. I was only giving her a little bit there and a little bit there. So one day when I was speaking with my new boyfriend, he called me via video call and he told me that he wanted us to have sex on the phone. This is what we used to do. He will be on the other side of the phone, busy touching himself, then I'll be touching myself. But on that night, I told him that I was so stressed. I was stressed that my kids back home, they were going to bed hungry, and here in South Africa, I could no longer to afford to pay for my rentals. So I was not in the mood to have sex on the phone. Then he said, how much do you want? And at that time, I was owing my landlord somewhere around 3,000 rand for the rentals. I then told him that that was the amount of money that I was owing my landlord. He said, it is okay. Can she give you an account number so that I can send her the rent money? I thought that maybe this guy was joking, but within a couple of minutes, he then sent me a screenshot and he said, I have sent your landlord the rent money. But when I looked at the screenshot closely, I saw that instead of him sending 3,000 rands, he had sent about 9.3 thousand rands. So I asked him and he said that he had made a mistake. He then told me that I was supposed to tell my landlord to give me the remainder of the money. I was really excited about my new relationship. So I started to remove myself from the rest of the dating groups that I had entered because I didn't want my past to catch up with me. I only wanted to focus on this guy because he had told me that he had fallen in love with me. So I didn't want my past mistakes to ruin my potential relationship with this dedicated man. When lockdown restrictions were relaxed a little bit, that is when we organized to meet. So he sent me some money and I had to rush to his province before those restrictions were put back in place again. When I traveled to the province where he was staying, I was shocked when he came to pick me up because he was driving in a very beautiful car. I got into his car thinking that maybe it was not his car. So he picked me up and he drove with me to his house, to the place where we are staying right now. And indeed, I saw that this guy was quite a rich man. As we entered into his house, I smiled a little bit and I was happy. So he then asked for my hand in marriage, and I quickly agreed. I didn't want to go back to the shack where I was staying. I wanted to become the woman of his house. He then told me that we were supposed to send money to my parents, and I asked him, is it okay according to our culture? Isn't it that your relatives are supposed to be there when you are paying for the bride price, since him and I could not travel back home to Zim because of the lockdown restrictions? But he said that we can explain the situation to your parents. So in no time, I then spoke with my father and my mother. I asked my mother to tell my father to write down the list of all the things that he wanted to be paid for my lobola. So my father did. After they had written everything, they sent the paper on WhatsApp. So my husband then said that it was fine. He was going to send the money straight to my parents. This is how I got married. There was no function. There was nothing. I was married over the phone, but my parents were okay with it because on that bride price, the amount that my parents had wrote, my husband managed to pay each and every single cent. Back home, they say that a man will never be able to pay the full bride price for his wife. But as for my husband, he managed to pay each and every single cent, and he then topped up with 2 cows, and he said that these 2 cows were supposed to be for my younger brother. I was really excited, even though I had told myself that I would never give birth, but for this man, I was willing to give him 3, even 4 kids, because he was quite a good man. We stayed together like that. And as the lockdown restrictions were further relaxed, me and him, we went and we had our court wedding. After the court wedding, we never went on any honeymoon. We did our honeymoon in our house. Then one night after supper, he called me. At the time when he called me, he was in the bathroom. I followed him to the bathroom and I saw that he had placed a Coca-Cola bottle just close to the bathtub. Then he told me that he wanted to have a bath with me. So I entered into the bathtub. Then we started to bath together. Then he took out something that looked like a very small needle, almost like an injection, the ones that they use if you go to get tested for HIV. That is the thing that he was holding in his hand. Then he said that me and him, we were supposed to do a covenant. So my brother, at that time, I was really weak with everything that this man had done for me, and now I was his legally married wife. So I felt that it was my duty to obey him with all of my body. He took that small Coca-Cola bottle, then he took my finger and he prickled my finger with the needle. Then he started to squeeze the blood into that Coca-Cola bottle. He also took his finger and he instructed me to do the same. I took his finger, then I prickled it with that small needle. Then I squeezed the blood until it fell into that small Coca bottle. He shook the Coca bottle and he instructed me to drink first. And he said that as the man of the house, he would drink later. This was quite strange to me, but I had to do it. After I had drank that, he said that we had done the covenant. But after that, my brother, I started to notice that a lot of strange things were going on in his house. At first, when I started to stay with him, I didn't pay a lot of attention. The thing that I noticed is that we always order a lot of eggs because we don't go shopping a lot. So we usually order, then the maid will then take care of the items that would have been brought by the delivery guys. The things that I noticed at that time when I was staying alone with my husband before lockdown had been removed, my husband would order a lot of eggs and I could not even understand where all of those eggs were going to. But now that our maid is back, they try as much as they can to do this orders in secret, but I usually go after the receipts. Then I'll see that our maid would have ordered maybe 2 5 dozens of eggs. And where those eggs go to, I don't even understand. And my husband told me that I am not supposed to interfere with his workers. I am only his wife. The recent thing that happened now is that one day I woke up, and when I woke up, I felt as if I had been beaten up. My body was really tired. As I was getting out of bed, I don't know what happened. I just felt this other strange urge to look underneath the bed. And when I looked underneath the bed, I saw that there was an egg that was underneath the bed. And when I got back on my feet, I saw that my husband was just standing at the bedroom door, and he walked away. So this thing, my brother, it is actually making me to question my husband. My husband is quite a traditional man, and I am afraid that if I keep on questioning him, maybe I'll come out as an ungrateful wife. But now that we have stayed together for many years, I have struggled to give my husband a child. But to him, it seems as if he does not even care. With all the money he has, he doesn't have a single child. I once heard him mentioning that his previous marriage that he had with his South African wife, the first woman whom he got married to, he only said that the woman tried to have an abortion, and after that they got divorced. And the story that he told me, it left me with a lot of questions as to why that woman who was married to my rich husband could try to have an abortion. This thing has left me with a lot of questions, and I do not have any answers at all. In their family, my brother, there are people that believe in a lot of traditional stuff. Even his own brother, he has a couple of buses. They do a lot of stuff before those buses get onto the road. I have came across these conversations that he has been having. I once came across that conversation that he was having with his brother, the one that has a couple of buses. The conversation that I found on my husband's phone, it was in form of a WhatsApp voice note. This voice note, it was from my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law was telling my husband that since they had faced a lot of challenges, because at that time my brother-in-law had recently purchased a brand new bus in China, so it got delayed at the harbor in Durban. So my brother-in-law was telling my husband that my husband should assist him in speaking with the ancestors. So this thing, it has left me with a lot of questions, but still, dear brother, all that I am asking for is for advice. I don't want to come out as a daughter-in-law that is very ungrateful, because as for my husband and the rest of his family, they are very nice people, they are kind people. But some of the things that happen in our house and the way that my husband married me, it just gives me a lot of sleepless nights. I don't know if I am safe. I just wish that one day I will come across his ex-wife so that I can properly understand what made her to think of having an abortion. Yo, dear listeners, right there was a message that I received. Then I had to ask one of our admins to give us a translation.